I'm Terry. That's my wife Dana behind the camera, and that's my neighbor mowing his grass in the background. We just wanted to talk to you a little bit with this time of pandemic and toilet paper shortages and some other crazy stuff about some common sense preparing that you could do for some of life's normal situations that kind of hit you by surprise, some not so much. So anyhow, you saw a little bit of the garden. We'll show you a little bit more. Our garden is 20 foot by 40 feet, and it puts out an amazing amount of produce. And we'll talk to you in a little bit about storing that produce, how you can do it, how the old timers did it, how some of our parents and grandparents did it. Prepping has kind of picked up a bad name, sometimes for good reason, but that's how our parents and grandparents lived, and it's a normal thing. So anyhow, this is our salad patch. It's currently planted with kale, lettuce. I forget some of the other stuff, but anything you want to put in a salad is there. What we have planted already in the back is one row of potatoes. This garden grows root crops like potatoes and carrots and beets very, very well. And this tunnel here we grow pole beans on, which right now we have Kentucky Wonders planted. Anyhow, we're going to proceed on to the front porch with no mower and share a few of our thoughts with you. This is some blackberries we got off of my sister, the thornless, and it has berries about the size of your thumb. Nice little treat for yourselves and the birdies. We'll head out here toward our front yard. Last year we had hot peppers growing in here and some broccoli plants, a couple heads of cauliflower, and it's our strawberry patch where we grow Ozark Beauties. And my wife's going to walk into a tree. And she's going to pan around the front of the house where our strawberries are. A little bit of the background about Dana and myself. I come from a family that came from the rural South. Both families' parents gardened, farmed. My grandfather on both sides worked as hired hands on farms. They never had much money. They lived off their gardens. I majored in VOAG in high school, member of the FFA. Paid for all my motorcycles and flying, working in the horticulture business for 3 years of high school. Dana, she's lived in rural areas and raised her own goats, made cheese, member of Girl Scouts. I was a member of Boy Scouts, forgot to put that in. And is there anything else you'd like to add? I mean, she did gardening and canning. We both have been involved with emergency management services. I was on fire department for quite a few years. We've taken Red Cross courses. We've worked with emergency radio communications and volunteered in several ways around there. We've both lived through some disasters that have left us without electricity or stranded by snow and water for several weeks at a time, so we have a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about here. But I just wanted to give you some general ideas about preparation. And it doesn't matter if you live in an apartment or live on a farm. There's some basic, simple things you can do that where you could get by for a period of time. uh, and do fairly well. Now, don't get me wrong. One of my favorite things in life is coffee. The next thing in life would be electricity. I love my hot showers. I love my electric coffee pot, my Keurig especially, but I can make coffee if I have to without it. One to start with is, if you want to prepare for an emergency, what do you want to prepare for and why? The reality of it is, if we had a major wipeout of our grid system, or if we had a major nuclear event, there's probably nothing in the world we can do to prepare for it. We'll certainly try. I don't know if you remember the threat of the nuclear attack in Hawaii, but there was men lifting off manhole covers and throwing their children down the sewers to try to save their lives. That's a natural instinct to survive. Some things we're just not going to be able to prepare for basic stuff like this pandemic and other hiccups. And then granted, this is a big one. We can prepare for it pretty simply. Number one concern ought to be water. And I don't care if you live in an apartment, you need to have a supply of water. But let me ask you this, do you need to use expensive bottled water to flush your toilet? No, you don't. All you need is a couple buckets, and before the storm hits or whatever, you could fill those up, and you'd have a supply for drinking, washing, and flushing your toilets. Doesn't hurt to keep a case or two of drinking water around for cooking or drinking or whatever. You can go farther with that. We have our own well, and I'm going to have Dana turn around and show you our backup system for that well. We can draw water out of there with a decorative pump that we have in our front yard. Okay. Good enough. Oh, okay. I actually had the leather packing kit for that. I can rebuild it if necessary, and that wood box will fit right down over our well. We also use a Berkey water system filter, and in theory you could take water out of the septic tank and filter it and drink it. I don't think I'm going to do that, but if we had to, we could use water from the lake. We use it every day to filter water from our well to use for our Keurig coffee pot. And if something else to consider, if you're worried about the chemicals in your water in the city, you don't know what they put in there, or you don't want the fluoride or whatever, take a look at a Berkey filter. The next area I want to look at is a heat source. The primary thing to be concerned about is water. And if you have a way of heating up a cup of that water, there's a myriad of things you can do with it. If you have a gas range, that's great. Even in a major electrical failure, your gas will work for a while. Not forever, but it'll work for a while. One of the things that prompted us to do this is we posted a video of Dana making coffee on a homemade rocket stove made out of concrete block. And we got a lot of questions and answers. Some people thought it was great, some people thought we were nuts. We probably are nuts, and to be honest with you, we like to play with fire. But the rocket stoves, they are used all over the world. They're efficient. I tell people you can cook a pack of hot dogs on those concrete blocks with a handful of twigs. For emergency heat sources, there are some very common ones from anything. The most common thing would be your barbecue grill. Let me ask you this, do you have a spare bottle of gas for your grill? You probably ought to get one. It doesn't cost that much and it's worth it. You can buy griddle plates to put on your grill, so you can fry eggs on your barbecue grill. And
I just want to add that you do not bring these things into your house.
Oh, right. Now another thing you can use is a sterno stove, and this is from Walmart. Now, I grew up in a family that camped and fished, took week-long canoe trips, and we used things like this all the time. We also used dehydrated foods before it was popular. And it folds down in a nice compact unit. And I'm not exactly sure how it goes together, but it's something like that. And that is something that you can, it's relatively inexpensive. You can keep it around, and you've got it available. Now, if you have a heat source, and personally, I got to throw in something here, I'm a little lazier. I have a 2-burner propane camp stove in the garage. And if I want to cook a big feast during a power outage, I have my dad's 60-year-old Coleman stove with a 50-year-old can of light gas out there I could use just to make life more exciting. And but there's a lot of options for heating up a can of water. Check out your camping supply stores. And next thing we're going to look at is food storage. We showed you that garden. It's totally amazing how much food comes out of a 20-foot by 40-foot space. In 2012, we had so many beans, we thought, well, we were sick of beans. We canned them, we ate them for several years. But food storage, let's go for the apartment dweller again. There's several options for you even, and non-gardeners. Number one, buy a can of food at the store. If you'll watch the ads, the other thing about food storage is the Mormons set a pretty good example in a lot of ways because they are very frugal. They store what they eat, so what they store they use. And food is a valuable commodity. It's a resource given to us by God. We should not waste it. So I try not to let food in my garden rot. Another option for apartment dwellers, if you got your little sterno stove, we used to use this stuff on canoe trips, and elk hunters and stuff in my kids' neighborhood still use it. It's freeze dried, it's very light, and this you can open the packet and pour some boiling water right in on top of it. I probably picked this up at Walmart, and it's great stuff, although the chili mac in a tent causes some gas. Now, one of the oldest methods of food storage is drying. The indigenous people in the northern regions have dried fish that way for centuries. The old farmers used to dry stuff, air dry it. American Indians used to air dry it. Beef jerky was made that way originally. And nowadays we have modern dehydrators where we can control the percentage of moisture, which helps us make it last longer. I just wanted to show you what some of this stuff looks like when it's dried. It's really amazing. It shrinks down. And we vacuum seal them. This is green beans. And those will come out tasting as fresh as a fresh bean and looking like a fresh bean. This is potatoes, and the reason the jars are almost empty, did I mention that it's a good idea to use what you stored? We use this stuff. Now, that's potatoes. Those are great. They're shredded, they're dehydrated, and you add a little water to them, let them sit for 10 or 15 minutes. You can make hash browns. You can mush them up and make mashed potatoes. They store very, very well. And if you don't want to do it yourself, you can buy them at Costco in little cardboard cartons, and that works great too. This is dried peppers, great for seasoning. They rehydrate just like the fresh vegetables. And when you dry things, you don't lose the nutrients that you do through some of the other processes. And this is another reason to take care of your own food, is the nutritional value. You don't waste things, you don't add things. The last thing I would talk about would be home canning. I do a lot of that myself. These are some of our green beans. The nice thing, of course, you pop the lid and you warm them up and they're ready to go. A very healthy snack is beets. And that garden back there grows very, very nice beets. Dana has a really good recipe for those. And they're a lot better than eating ice cream, although I like both. And here's something people don't think about. for food storage, if you have a way of heating a cup of water, you can fix oatmeal, you can fix a cup of tea, a cup of soup, a dehydrated meal. It doesn't take that much money or time. And my recommendation is don't go for 6 months supply of food storage off the bat. Figure out what you eat on a weekly basis. And when you go grocery shopping, you watch the sales, pick up the items you want on sale, and you start working toward maintaining a 30-degree food storage program. And the thought being, at the end of 30 degrees, you used everything up that you bought on day one, and you're rotating the stock just like the grocery store does. And I want to add one more thing about this stuff. A lot of people think this is the number one emergency food, and they're great. But if you have a family of 5 and you want 6 months supply of food for a backup, you will have to fill a warehouse full of this stuff, and it will cost you your life savings. That's why we only used it on canoe trips and camping and stuff like that. This is not something that we here would use on a daily or monthly basis. It's for long-term storage. This is freeze-dried. Freeze-drying has been around for a long time. Campbell's Soup was freeze-drying some of their soup in the 50s, and it's still good today. I saw a guy eat it on television the other day. It's good for emergency use only, or camping, or backpacking, or throwing in the back of your car, someplace where you don't want to take up a lot of room, but it costs a lot of money. We're going to talk about light here in a little bit, but a couple other things before I forget them that you want to keep on hand is some rent money. Along with the run on the grocery stores that we've seen, we also have seen a major parking lot at the bank's drive-through where you couldn't get through. And so it might not hurt to have a little bit of cash on hand. All it would take was a electrical storm or something like that, and your banks could be out of business the next day. Medications. Most of your mail order places will give you a 90-day prescription nowadays. That's a really good idea to do that. And I want to talk about light sources. Everybody should have a good flashlight of some kind. This is a mag light. It's LED. This is LED. This is great. It puts out a lot of light, and it runs on a couple of AAA batteries. It's fantastic. If I had to have just one light, this would probably be it. It's got a flashlight on the other end. Some spare batteries. Batteries will last 5 or 6 years nowadays. You get a good Duracell, check the expiration date on, they will store for a long time. Get you a couple sets of batteries and have them on backup for this. Food and light. I think I've covered everything I want to talk about. Oh, the light. All right, everybody thinks that if you're going to be a prepper, you got to have kerosene lanterns. Well, that's not your most efficient light, really. I have a propane lantern in the garage that works very well. I've got a couple old white gas lanterns I used for years. They still work. Kerosene is okay. We burn it on a regular basis because we think they're cool. I think I mentioned earlier we like to play with fire. This one here is about a $20 lantern. It came from Lehman's. And what I have in it now is oil. There are several things you can burn. That's actually Aladdin oil, which is very expensive. Another thing you can burn in them is medallion oil. Medallion is better than some of the general lamp oils that you can get. You don't get the amount of smoke or anything. And we have, if you're burning it in the house, this is liquid candle wax. That works great. It doesn't leave a smoky smell, doesn't leave smudges on your white ceilings. It has a nice clean white flame, but it turns the jello at 50 degrees. And it would work okay in this lantern because the wick is close to the base. But if you had a tall lamp or dining room lamp or something that had a long wicking area, It does not wick as well as kerosene. So you would want to use a lamp oil on something where your wick is close to your base. There's other light sources available. Like I said, this is the thing that you need to have. And I wanted to show some resources here. Oh, one other thing. Can openers. Have a manual can opener and a good one. And it doesn't hurt to have a small, this is a P38 military surplus, which actually works pretty good for a backup. Let me switch sides of the table here, and I want to show you some resources. I highly recommend check out some resources, starting with the United States government. FEMA has some good stuff on their website, and I haven't looked at Homeland Security and some others, but I do know that FEMA has good stuff. There are a lot of books out there on preparing and storing, and just as importantly, on cooking your food. One thing Dana and I both like to do is take classes. I took a class on fermenting vegetables. I do not have that down pat yet, but that is an old method of storing vegetables. The Vikings lived on sauerkraut, and they didn't get scurvy compared to the rest of the sailors. Ball has some good books on canning and preserving. And Lehman's Hardware. That is a great place. They actually have a lamp museum there. I have a couple of antique lamps that I'm going to take down there and try to find some parts. Their walls and ceilings are literally a museum. It's a great place. They have all kinds of products, information, and classes. And I asked my wife if there's anything that she would like to add there before we close, but I just wanted to give you a brief rundown of what goes through our crazy heads sometimes and why we're building these stupid fires in the backyard. But anyhow, hope you consider this and start with a 30-day supply of what you use on a regular basis, and then you won't have a problem like we've seen so many have to deal with in the grocery stores today. Thank you very much.